There we go.
There we go. Okay. So it is our May Talk About It Tuesday. And this month we're trying something different. This is our Ask the Experts, Ask Me Anything professional. We have three amazing people joining us that some of you may know that have been through the Institute for Organization Management program. These names and faces may be familiar to you. Otherwise, I will just tell you that they are three professionals that are on my speed dial. That I've had the pleasure of getting to know through Institute. And I'm not going to do the full introduction because I think that you will learn a little bit about them as we go through and they answer. But I'm going to start just kind of by in order of which they appear on my screen. First is Kathi Roetter, and Kathi is from the Troy, Ohio Chamber of Commerce. And Kathi, I got to know through Institute. She was chair of Winter this year, right?
This year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for those of you who know, Winter Institute is actually held in January in Tucson, and Kathi was the chair of that this year. Spent some time with us at Southeast last summer, and it's just incredible professional. Next is Ken Phelps. He is IOM also with the Daytona Regional Chamber of Commerce down there on the beautiful Daytona Beach. Ken serves with me on the Board of Regents for Southeast Institute and has been in our industry for a good number of years as well. And then last but certainly not least is someone that I've known for a year or two, Mr. Heath Taylor, formerly with the Dublin Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce in Georgia, and now with the Columbia County Chamber of Commerce over there in the greater Augusta area. So thank you, all three of you.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, thank you. Thank you, number one, for answering my text and call and saying yes to this. You are the guinea pigs, as we have never quite done this before. So, really, with that, I'm going to be quiet. But just say that we've got a great number of folks on the call today. And really, this is about just ask these three any question, any burning question. It can be in theory or in practice. Maybe something that they are doing really well at their local chamber, something that they have faced, or something about the profession. So, with that, I'm going to be quiet. If you would either just unmute or if you want to kind of do the raise your hand, that feature that is on Zoom, and we will get to you. So, with that, burning questions. Hey, Margaret.
Okay. Hi, I'm Margaret Jones with the Decatur Morgan County Chamber. One initiative that we've really kind of talked about a lot this year is how to engage our small businesses. We're a very program-driven chamber, but I come from the small business world, and a lot of them aren't going to come to an early morning. They can't come to a luncheon event, and typically they're still working at night. So how do you engage with your small business members that you don't see often? Like, how do you reinstate that value to them?
Either one of you want to answer first?
Go
I'll
ahead.
I'll I'll jump in, and that way Heath can clean up whatever mess I leave in comments. Um,
Ken, we're in trouble if we're leaving that to Heath.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. For us, it is you can't just assume small businesses have the bandwidth to get to everything. And so I think part of the value of membership for them in a chamber of commerce is that you're doing the work that they can't possibly have the time to do. Especially if you're doing work in the advocacy realm, if you're doing leadership development, if you're doing workforce development, you're going to the things and you're in the rooms that they don't have the time to be in. And that in and of itself brings intrinsic value to their membership. We here in Daytona, we worked very hard for a handful of years, both prior to my arrival on team and in my first several years here, to not articulate chamber membership in equivalence to a gym membership. That's the one thing everybody wants to say. They want to say, oh, you get out of it what you put into it. And we deliberately moved away from that because as soon as they don't have time to come to an after hours or attend an event or something, they're immediately equating that with they're not getting value out of their membership and you have a retention risk. The thing that I like to say to small businesses is when you're too busy to come to a chamber event, that is exactly when you need to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce because you're in the room having the conversations on their behalf that they can't possibly have time to do. And in all honesty, if we're doing our jobs well, they're eventually not going to be able to come to anything because they should be doing so much business. They can't get out of the office. So that's how we have articulated value to small business members.
Thank you.
I had it written down right there, Ken. Don't ever say you get out what you put in. You could not have said that better. I think another thing, Margaret and Kathy, did you want to jump in?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I'll go after you.
I think it's really important, especially with the smaller member sector, to have the discussion about why they joined the Chamber of Commerce. It's hard for us to tell you we met your expectations if we don't first know what your expectations were. So properly having that member join and onboarding them properly is probably going to be as important as anything else. And if they understand, okay, if you don't have to come to events, as Ken mentioned, and programs and all these different things to still get value in the chamber. Just by you joining the chamber, you've made a monetary investment in our chamber, which helps us execute our program of work, which is going to provide a better place for everybody to live, learn, work, and play. There's also strength in numbers. Ken mentioned advocacy. If we go to a county commissioner meeting, I know here, if I walk in the room in a business climate like we have here, and I say, hey, I'm representing 300 or 400 businesses, our commissioners would probably say, well, gee, thank you for coming. And, we heard you. We represent 1,000 businesses here. And so when we speak, they have to listen to what we have to say. So just by you being a member of the chamber, you're supporting us in a number aspect as well as a monetary aspect. But then I need to know from you, what are you looking for? What does your return on investment look like? And then I can tell you the things that we'll do to help you have a return on your investment.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with everything that both of you have said, but I was also just going to add, there sometimes is a need for programming for small businesses. And I think too often we assume what they need. And so I think it's really important to do a listening tour and absolutely find out why they joined the chamber, but figure out what the pain point is right now, that you could be the problem solver and create a program for them that would help them to solve a problem they're currently having. They're not always looking for the networking. That's what I have found.
All
Thank
great points. And Margaret, I would just kind of reiterate that sometimes those are the members that we have to go out to see more often, the ones that can't come to us. But then also, how are you specifically measuring engagement? I think when I started in this business, we were measuring that by attendance. But now, even with the association, we have to measure engagement differently. And are they submitting Friday flyers? Are they answering a survey if you have that? Are they submitting, for an award or those sorts of things? That's engagement. That's maybe at some time the only way that they can engage. So good points. All right, next question. Anyone? Anyone? This is not just the listening.
I can keep going.
Keep going. Keep
I have
going.
another question.
Go ahead.
So kind of flipping onto the recruitment side, we've really started kind of honing in on retail recruitment, kind of started with your independently owned restaurants, but also looking at, national retailers. Are there certain organizations that you have worked in or worked with in the past as, kind of a tag team effort, or kind of give me some pointers on your approach as far as the retail recruitment side of things?
Margaret, just to clarify, are you talking about retail recruitment for people to bring new business or retail recruitment into chamber membership?
Retail recruitment to bring new business.
Okay.
Sorry, should have clarified that.
Nope. Just wanted to make sure.
I'll be brief in my answer on that because we play very well in the sandbox with our partner organizations in Volusia County and in the greater Daytona Beach region, but we have economic development for companies that are, part of the community. So we support them in their efforts. And actually, Team Volusia Economic Development Corporation spun out of the Daytona Regional Chamber 15 to 20 years ago. So that we're doing it much more. And then Volusia County and the business community saw the need for that to be its own organization. It was bigger than a committee or task force, so they formed their own agencies. So we're fortunate that whether it's the county economic development or Team Volusia recruiting from outside the area or us, whoever gets that call, the other two are always immediately kind of roped into the conversation so that it's a holistic front on business recruitment, whether retail or otherwise. But we don't do a whole lot of that on the lead. We just support the other efforts.
We're the same way. We have a partner economic development organization and a regional economic development partner. And so we just come alongside them and support however we can.
Pretty much the same for us, and add a downtown development into that as well. So our job is to work with them and partner with them however we can help them.
That's how we're structured. We have a downtown redevelopment authority, and then we have Morgan County Economic Development Association, but they're more industry driven. So the retail side of thing kind of falls more into the chamber world. And we work closely with the director of development for the city and everything, but I'm still fairly new to my role. So just kind of seeing different ways people have approached it in the past. So thank you.
Margaret, are you in a larger population area? Or are you a small rural community that you're trying to recruit retailers?
So Decatur City has about 58,000 and the county is at 127,000. Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
So mostly for Decatur proper is where we'll land most of our retailers.
Okay.
But we've just kind of hit that growth period with a bunch of investment, from the city and from outside developers and things like that. And so, now the population is what's next? When can we get this and when can we have that? So
Yeah, in a past life, I worked in retail real estate for a enclosed shopping mall up in Pennsylvania, doing marketing and common area coordination, and then general manager for a period of time, and worked with leasing agents, leasing reps, and retail site selectors that would come into the area. Let me tell you how you're not going to fool them on anything about your community. They already know everything they need to know to make the decision. It's about what you can do to bring them in because they know exactly how many of their customers live within a 2, 5, 10-minute drive, and it's not put a pencil in the center and a string and draw around a big circle. It looks like an amoeba because they're accounting for highways and drive times and access and all of that kind of stuff. So the thing that will primarily drive retail development is population. We that's something we've struggled with here in Daytona Beach. We've got a downtown area that's going through some revitalization, which is great, but everybody's immediately like, oh, we need a Publix or we need a Trader Joe's or we need this downtown. There's not the population density yet. Now, fortunately for us, there's some high density developments taking place. There's some luxury apartments that are being built and some other market rate complex that's close to going for approval with the city. When those are occupied, you're going to see a grocery store in downtown Daytona Beach. There's no doubt in my mind, but they're not coming a second before that happens.
Margaret, remind me, you're right on the line. Are you TVA? It's Morgan County TV. Yeah. TVA is going to probably have a lot of that data that you can access. Next site, retail strategies, those are two.
That's who I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're right there in Birmingham.
Yeah. Two pretty active third-party vendors that can do retail recruitment for communities. I think right now is actually ICSC, International or Council of Shopping Centers, is in Vegas. I think it's happening right now. Alabama has a pretty big presence there. You can certainly tap into that as well. I'm trying to think of who's doing retail recruitment in the state. What chambers, and I'll figure that out and try to
Okay.
get
And
Thank you.
I'll just jump in there. We're right at the point of, like Margaret said, we're growing. We're right next door to Huntsville. And of course, they're the largest city now in the state, which makes it a challenge for us because oftentimes we have to wait on everything to uh, make second locations even in Huntsville before they'll consider Decatur. So, but we're growing, and like you said, to have that critical mass, especially in our downtown area, will make all the difference in the world. And so we're getting there slowly but surely.
yeah.
That retail strategies group will point out to you that it takes getting certain retailers in your community. When you get them, the others will come. And an example they gave us was Walmart. When you see a Walmart, you're going to see an Aldi not too far away. They're usually going to be toward the end of your town. And just the way that they build their infrastructure, really. But you have to have one before the next comes. Kind of again to Ken's point, when you get business A and B, then business C is just they will follow.
Mhm.
It's all about rooftops.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
If their clientele overlaps, that's where Keith's going to see it. Like they know their customer base is there because somebody else has already taken the risk of going into the market. And if they make it work, then they know their concept will work there as well.
And that's where a next site or a retail strategies, if you're kind of at that tipping point, they know that market and they know where where you'll just be spinning your wheels and where the next layer of retailer. And you guys already have a good commercial base in Decatur.
Mhm.
So all right. I know somebody has a question. Or you wouldn't be here. I know you have a question. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, my name is Rachel Heath, and I'm Director of Communications at the Decatur-Morgan County Chamber. And my question, you mentioned it earlier about advocacy. I oversee our public policy agenda. I've just recently overhauled it and tried to make it easier for our members to digest, and we go over it with our members every year. What advice would you give to growing that and making it more member-centric?
You
How
guys
did you?
can
I
go
was
ahead,
gonna-
Ken.
how did you build and overhaul your policy statements? Were your members involved in that conversation, establishing those priorities?
Well, what we did, we had like I think it was about 25, 26 pages, and it was state, local, and federal, and they repeated a lot. And yes, all of that came from them. So what I did is I went in with the help of the staff and we made sure that none of that repeated. So we reorganized it by category so they didn't, state, federal, and local didn't repeat in each section. So I was just trying to streamline it. So now it's like 12 or 13 pages. And now my goal is I really don't know, what do I do next? Should I go to the members again this time and say, how do we whittle it down? Or I was thinking each year maybe have priorities for that session to be able to focus. So when our local, state, and federal legislators do see it, that they can say, okay, this is what we need to focus on, because it's still a lot to read. So I just wanted the best way to be able to get our needs of our businesses out there.
We do just what you just mentioned is legislative priorities, and then we give that, our governmental affairs committee actually comes up with what those priorities are, and then they follow all of the session, and we have updates on that regularly, and then we do pre and post legislative luncheons or breakfast to go along with that, to try to keep the community as involved and engaged as we can.
And is that at like the front of your agenda, the priorities, or is it the priorities that you only really put out there?
For governmental affairs, whatever they come up with, that's it. Then that's what they exist for. And we have our governmental affairs chair. gives updates at our chamber board meetings, but government affairs that's a separate group. And they meet separate from our chamber board. They establish their priorities each year. And
Yeah,
they're great here. This is probably the best legislative affairs group I've ever been a part of in Columbia County. They're good.
Yeah, we have similar format to our advocacy efforts here. We actually have a director of advocacy on staff as a paid position, so there's kind of a consistent point of contact for that. We do a little of both of the things that you mentioned. So each year we've started to dip our foot in even a little bit more areas of that pool. So we call it the Cornerstone Committee. That's our because we say advocacy is a cornerstone of our work here at the Daytona Regional Chamber. So that's where that name came from. But they meet and kind of keep abreast of what's happening, what are the issues. So they're kind of the eyes and ears to keep us, in the know on what could be important to our business members. They help establish the chamber's priorities from a legislative standpoint for each session. And I don't know how Alabama or Georgia, some of the other states meet. We're annually. Our new president and CEO came from Texas, and they meet every 2 years, which was to me kind of weird. But the legislative priorities are developed annually, and they change from year to year. But there's some things that you're kind of always going to consistently have a stance on or opinion on. And so it's probably been 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer ago now. A lot of the folks from our Cornerstone Committee and some members of our board and some folks worked together to put together our Where We Stand document on those kind of evergreen issues so that there's consistency from our organization on a year-to-year basis. That gives us some longevity, but and then the annual priorities help us, flex as needed. When there's a current issue come up, like Heath was mentioning the data centers when we first got on the call for a minute. It's like nobody was talking about that 4 years ago. It wasn't a thing. And now all of a sudden that's become a really hot button issue at all levels of government. So that's how we kind of manage those two things. But it's always about talking to our membership to the extent you can get them to answer a survey. If I were to jump on a call like this, that'd be one of the first questions I would ask. How do you get members to respond to surveys and your emails? Because sometimes that's like the most challenging aspect of the job.
Yes, totally agree. And since you said that, do you know the answer to that?
I don't.
What's your advice on survey answer?
I would tell you not to constantly survey your members. Only survey them once or twice a year. And again, you want to keep it to 3, 4, 5 questions, something really brief that they can fill out, or if you can give some incentive to go with the survey. But yeah, I think that was a great point Kim brought up. We sometimes chambers over communicate with their members, and they're just sending out stuff every day of the week. We only do communications on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at our chamber, unless if you get an email or something from the chamber on a Monday or a Friday, you really better read it. There's something bad about to happen or something you really need to know. But we try to minimize the amount of communication straight from the chamber. Some of the other, your social media props and things like that, we do a lot more out in that direction. But news that we really want you to read, and we have about a 38%, which I know it's, to some people you say 38%. Well, that's terrible. That's actually a pretty good open rate, I think, for chamber email too.
It's actually above average for chamber. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the things that when I first started here in Daytona, I was doing event directing and then picked up our newsletter. And the first one I got back, I was like a 29% or 30% open rate. And I was like, oh, I got to work on that. So the next week there was a constant contact webinar about how to improve your open rate. And I was like, oh, that's great. What great timing. And I jumped on, and the first thing they said was like, if you're getting 25 to 28%, you're getting a fantastic open rate. And I was like, oh, crap. I thought I was going to be learning something. We were doing it right.
Do you all survey your dropped members?
We we try to, but the truth is that we stopped doing that because we really were not getting good data that helped us in any way to either get them back or helped us to retain other members. So felt like that was just kind of a waste of staff time.
Yeah.
We try
Thank
to
you.
get a good reason for a drop when the members drop, but even that's tough because you don't know if they're giving you a straight answer. And not to say they're doing anything underhanded, but it's tough if you're in business and you're not doing well. Nobody wants to admit that, so they'll come up with some other reason to give you. So it's a little challenging, and we have a hard enough time getting the members who are invested to respond to us. The folks that are leaving, they're like, yeah, okay, see ya.
A lot of times once a member's made the decision not to renew, they're just done and you're not going to get any reply. But I'll tell you the one thing that we did, and you guys, some of you have heard me say this before when we were in LJ. The week before we would sit down to drop members, we would send we are so sorry to see you go. Sorry that we've dropped your membership. If you would ever like to come back, if you'd like to tell us why, please do. If you're always welcome, whatever. And it was literally just kind of that email. And we'd send it a week before. Oh, there's Kathi.
Maybe.
Maybe we would send that
Switching
out.
cameras.
And the reason we sent it a week before is because sometimes that was oh, they really mean it. They want me to pay their bill. They want me to pay my bill. And so you'd have people that would pay then and you wouldn't have to drop them. But sometimes it was just that little simple. Is anybody, to Ken's point and to Rachel's and everybody's point, is anyone, and I'll just kind of ask the general group, and Kathi, please jump in if you'd like, is anybody really seeing success in surveying or data collection, something other than just, the old membership survey? Is anybody doing anything really good?
I'm always of the mindset if you're surveying your members too many times, you're not connecting with them and you don't know what you're doing. And that's the way it comes across. If you've got to constantly ask them what you should be doing, something's wrong internally.
Yeah. Even when you're not formally surveying, whenever you're visiting, whenever you're talking to people, that's a form of survey.
Right.
It's just putting that data collection into growth zone or chamber master or keeping up with it, not just, letting it go in one ear and out the other. Because if you start hearing that over and over.
A great example of that page, and some people don't understand out in the community. So recently we're doing commercials for data centers at our chamber. And somebody made a post online and they said that they don't think that the chamber membership would have supported what we're doing. And I had a conversation offline with that person. I would never have the conversation online, but I told them, you do realize that our chamber board of directors is made up of our membership. So the members are the people who told us that they support what we're doing here. And I don't think sometimes, people think, well, Ken comes to work or you come to work or I do, and I just get to say, hey, this is what the chamber is going to do today. And I make those decisions. They don't think about the fact that we have a board of directors that's made up of our membership, which, by the way, all of them can run for a position on our board anytime they want to, if they want to have some input. But we had 100% support from our board to support the data centers and what they're doing here. So actually, as far as I was concerned, our membership is in favor.
Yeah, and that actually, Heath, that's a great recruitment tool because we'll hear that periodically. We've got some naysayers in the community or some issues that are pretty divisive, and they'll say, well, I don't agree with everything the chamber does. And I will tell them, and that will continue to be the case if you're not part of the conversation. And we can't know there are other businesses in the community that feel differently if you're not at the table and part of the discussion. And that's one of my favorite sayings. If you're not at the table, you are on the menu, 100%.
Very good point. Crystal?
I'm curious about the data center conversation. I feel like that's going to come up. One of our congressmen is very much in favor, but one of the area, one of the actually Page Limestone County, Athens Limestone County, has just recently passed an ordinance regulating data centers because there's a lot of concern. They have a lot of open land. And so a lot of concern, and I'm hearing a lot of concern from our membership. So tell me a little bit about how, I'm just curious how that conversation, or how did you all come to be supportive, and what did that look like for you all?
You guys want to answer, or I don't mind right in the middle of it.
If you're right in the middle of it, you go right ahead. I'm going to duck over here and miss that arrow.
Yep.
So in the state of Georgia right now, Columbia County is actually being looked at as the model for how to work with a data center. We have the most strict regulations and governance that we've written for our data centers here. And so the state is adopting some of our ordinances and regulations. And as a matter of fact, some of our local representatives were in DC to share with them the regulations that we have. And when I look at our neighboring communities, some of them don't have proper sound barriers. They don't have ordinances as far as the amount of water use or electricity that can be used. All sorts of things to do with infrastructure, incentives, energy, and everything. So our folks did a really good job of touring around the US where data centers existed, and then came back together and put together really, really good, positive ordinances that the data center agreed with. So where some have zero noise barrier ordinances, the ones that do have them, most of them have a 200-foot barrier. Columbia County requires 500 feet. Lighting ordinances, they have regulations to make sure that there's not bright lights that are being, in the neighborhoods, and different things such as that. The power generation, the water usage, but the biggest thing where the chamber plays a role there, and I hope we can say this for chambers of commerce today, is people still trust the chamber. And so what we wanted to do to begin with was to make sure that, because there is so much misinformation out there, we wanted to make sure that we listed factual data about data centers. So you can actually go online, you can look at columbiacountydatacenter.com, and that's our Columbia County Chamber's website that our data center actually paid for. I'm probably not supposed to say that out loud, but everything that's on there is factual data. And so people don't understand your hospital, wherever you live. If you have a hospital in your town, your hospital uses more water than your data center is ever going to use in a newer data center. Now, some of the original ones that were built did use massive amounts of water. They're using closed loop systems now. Corpus Christi, Texas, for example, they have an Amoco Plastics plant there. The Amoco Plastics plant uses more water in one day than all of the city's water parks and splash pads use in the entire summer. So data centers don't use more water most of the time than your local hospital or some other industry that you already have in your community. So our job is to let people know these are facts about data centers and these are myths. If you live near the data center, it doesn't mean you're going to get cancer because of the noise waves. The noise that they talk about, that come from early data centers. They had generators that ran. Generators are just for backup power now, and they test them once a month, and they turn them on for about 2 minutes and turn them off. So that's what our role has been, to try to make sure we dispel what's myth and what's truth. It sounds like we're advocating for the data center, but we're trying to just make sure what's truth and what's not.
Okay, thank you.
That's great.
Heath,
was
does
just
that
gonna
hold
add-
true for the newer centers that are upscaling to handle the volume of bandwidth that AI is requiring?
What is that?
Is that the water usage data, is that Is that current for the most recent centers that are being built to handle the increase in bandwidth
Yeah.
that AI is requiring?
Yeah, the data centers that are being built today use a closed loop water system. So once they get the water that they need, they use very little water after that because it's just recycled. Actually, Columbia or Richmond County, which is our neighbor, they're actually considering using wastewater, treated wastewater for the cooling system for the data center that they're going to build. So there's a lot of things that's being tried. But data centers have come up just like anything else, like automobiles. When automobiles were first made, they didn't get good gas mileage. They had a lot of pollution and all these. And as years go on, technology evolves and they get better and better. The same things happen with data centers. If you look up information on data centers from 10 years ago, you're gonna think, oh, they're gonna use all the water, they're gonna use all the electricity, it's gonna be noisy, there's gonna be all these bright lights. And that's just simply not the truth today. So, and the funny thing about it is most of the people who argue and are so anti-data center, they use social media platforms to share their cases. So,
Get out of town. I don't believe that for a second.
That
yeah.
never happens. All right. Anybody else have a great burning question?
I do.
What?
I just want to know what's the biggest challenge facing your chamber, your particular. Our saying is always, if you've seen one chamber, you've seen one chamber. So what is your one chamber? What is the biggest issue at your chamber today?
Well, we are a small to medium-sized chamber, and for us right now, it's duplication of services. So I mentioned we have a partner agency with economic development that we actually created with the city. And so now that has created competition. We have a downtown group, and we're a community of 27,000. And so we're really at a crossroads. The chamber is doing really well, but what we're hearing from businesses is that they're kind of frustrated with everyone doing similar things. Yeah. It's a fun topic.
It is
What's the chamber's?
very, very relevant. Very relevant,
It
Kathi.
is very relevant for, communities our size. And honestly, we're a county of 110,000, and there's two other chambers. Well, actually, 2.5 other chambers. And we really should probably be a county chamber, but that's where I think we need to be going, because that's the best way to serve businesses, is to collaborate and share resources. But sometimes it's hard to change.
Yeah. And you have consumer citizens that don't understand the difference. And there is duplication of services. And then
Yes,
there's the crashes that happen when lanes get crossed.
absolutely.
That is a very relevant, and I hear that from a lot of our chambers across the state. Yep.
I feel like the biggest issue for our area, chamber related or not, is population, and that's affecting all of the work that we're doing. Like you said earlier, for retail, you've got to hit that number, and we're right on the cusp, but like we've been inching towards the cusp of growth for a few years now. There was a residential task force that came out of the chamber a few years ago, and there's a lot of new developments, which are great, but now it's getting the people here. And I know Crystal mentioned earlier being right near Huntsville and the Space Command and the FBI and all of that. It's bringing the people to Decatur, Morgan County. And once we get that, I think a lot of other balls will keep rolling throughout the chamber. Unless all of our staff is on this call, unless anybody else disagrees.
Laura, I'm going to call you out because I can see you. What is the biggest challenge facing the Sylacauga Chamber right now?
Well, you probably actually know, I've just faced last week, both of my staff members resigned on the same day. So staffing is very relevant to me right now. But I'm using this as an opportunity to rebuild, reorganize, and strengthen our organization. We had reached a growth point where I was actually evaluating my organizational structure to determine financially how I could add a fourth person. Um, but now I'm going to be adding more than I thought originally. So I'm seeing it as a great opportunity, but it does have its frustrations. One of my challenges with that is revenue and opportunities for revenue growth. Um, so that's my pain point this week. And all of the others that have been discussed, I can definitely relate to those as well. But that's my current pain point.
I love that you're looking. It is definitely an opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it as it's an opportunity for me professionally as well to fine tune my management skills in leading our organization. So I'm going to be doing a lot of self-reflection as well as organizational reflection and trying to figure out how um, we can be even stronger than we were because we had some really good things going, but I know this is how the world evolves and it's not such a bad thing either because I think sometimes even we become complacent. We talk about complacency to our business and industry, but I think sometimes we have a tendency to get a little too comfortable as well. And it's nice to have a little um, a checkup periodically. I just would like for it to happen a little bit. It's more spread out, but we don't make those choices. So
That is
Laura, you
true.
have a great attitude. I love that. I love that.
well, I'm
I
trying.
I was going to ask, as you do that, we've had that happen too, where two staff left at the same time and did some restructuring and really looked at job descriptions and what we needed. And we had an opportunity to bring someone in whose role at the hospital is strategic and looking at strategic operations. And he kind of came in alongside of us and kind of looked at what we were doing with a different, set of eyes. So that might be an opportunity for you as well through another business relationship that you have.
I love that. I will tell you some of the first two phone calls I made um, were to two of my mentors in the industry, Paige being one of them, and another you all know, Terry Smiley. So I reached out to both of them and uh, said, I'm going to need your help and guidance. And so I'm very confident that I mean, that's one thing I love about our industry is that we are so supportive of each other. And, there's a number. I mean, that's just two, but I probably have a whole pool of 20 plus that I could reach out to for feedback and guidance. And so I'm not a very patient person, so that creates a challenge of its own. But it is going to be good. But I do love that idea, and we have some great leadership, specifically at our hospital. And I'm going to make that phone call. Thank you, Kathi.
You're welcome.
A great recommendation.
This is a good time for a plug for IOM too, Paige. I was on the phone this morning already with two of my brothers from IOM. So it's like you said, to have that network of folks that you can call. And I see there's a couple more people on here that have been to IOM. That's invaluable to be able to pick up that phone and call others, and you realize you're not alone. Chambers all across America struggle because most chambers don't have good salaries, most don't offer benefits, and most of our employees are in the spotlight. And so if you have a rock star at your chamber, somebody's going to notice that person and they're going to make them an offer a lot of times that you can't compete with.
An offer you can't refuse, right?
Yeah. There's 7 on staff here, and I have 6 of my 7 have been here less than 2 years. And
Wow.
we have, I would tell you from the chamber I just left in Middle Georgia to where I am now, the average salary here is about 20,000 more per employee than it was there. And we offer health, medical, dental, vision. We offer all of that here. But again, there's such a big pool and a talent war going on. If we have great employees here, the banks and the other industries see those people, and even with the salaries that we offer, we can't compete with them.
Yeah. I've always said I was always must have always just been mediocre because I never got poached from her. So it's better to just be mediocre. Um, but and I jokingly say that, but it does speak to the fact that I had a board of directors that took care of me. And we have to do that. We have to not be ashamed of that and taking care of our folks. Well, we are going on 50 minutes. And we typically try to keep these to around 45 minutes. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. There are other people I know on the screen, kind of hiding behind the black screen. But if anybody has another question they'd like to ask, we'll take another question before we wrap up. All right. And I'm going to leave it there because I think Heath kind of spoke to a program that I'm very passionate about. That's how Kathi is in my world. That is how Ken is in my world. And of course, I've known Heath for before IOM, but have really got to know him and consider him a brother as well, and having served together. So if you have not started your Institute journey, I highly encourage you to. I know there are a couple of you that I know Monica is going to be starting hers, and Tina is kind of in the middle of hers. So I encourage you to talk to one of us, learn more about the program. But I just want to say thank you to all of you for believing in your state association and being involved here. Because this is another set of peers and friends that we can reach out to. And Heath is a former chair of GACCE, our peer over there. I know, Ken, you're probably involved in FACP, and Kathi, you guys have two in Ohio, right? Or do you have
Just one now,
just one?
CPO, Chamber of Professionals of Ohio.
Okay, good. So thank you for your engagement and your involvement with Alabama Chambers. Thank you to all of you. And Kathi, Ken, Heath, thank you. I don't know what else to say, for just spending some time with us. You're always welcome in Sweet Home Alabama. And I ask you to step in and do it again.
Happy for the invitation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always good to see you guys. So, with that, Godspeed. I hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and go vote. If you have not, today is primary day. Yay! Um, the ads shall stop. So,
For a while.
you got, yeah, at least until the runoffs. You guys have a great day, and we will see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.